great grandfather.
This price also is pretty cheap.
And we are all hiring across all roles. Finally see.
That would change the world, right? My Parag is gonna be offended by you. You just called him a puppet CEO.
That's what happened.
George Orwell is back in the form of Elon Musk. Hello everyone, welcome to the Synapse pod. This is episode 1 of the Synapse pod, and this is something which we all best friends decided we'll start for India and for the world. So just telling you a little about the name, why we chose Synapse pod as the name was. Synapse is essentially the connections between neurons in your brain. So we believe that we will continue to invite a lot of other guests as well on the podcast. It is essentially the connection between the brain pods which leads to all the magic that you see in and around the world. So I think when people will meet on this podcast and they will have a chat about different kinds of topics, everything that is going in and around the world which is related to business, investing, politics, human rights, all kinds, they will essentially be creating a lot of connections and for our viewers as well, and which will lead to enlightened world, and that is our effort to do that. So we used to have all these conversations in our private locker rooms as such, discussing world politics, and from COVID to Donald Trump to Twitter and whatnot. We just thought that we'll record it professionally this time and make it available for everyone, right? So my name is Chirag. I have built a couple of companies in the past with other members on this podcast, and right now presently I'm running this company called Sarthi, which is in stealth, so I can't tell you anything about it, but it is mainly focused on Bharat. I'm building for Bharat and trying to scale it up. Before this, I was also named as the most promising young entrepreneur when I was just 22 for my previous company called Leaf Variables. Scaled it up, built it up, then started a company with other people on this podcast, and they'll also come in with the intros. It was called Leaf Studios, which was 100% focused on audio, consumer electronics, and connected hardware. So that is a little about me. Have been a serial entrepreneur all my life, and I love my specialty is I love to think about new ideas, create new businesses, and essentially get people together to create that magic. So that is me. I would pass on the baton now to another gentleman sitting right very close to me on my left side. That is Manik. And Manik, a little about you for our viewers.
Hi guys. As Chirag has explained, how we kind of got here was just to explain what our views are, and that's what we are all here for. We would be speaking about everything which we generally talk about, just sharing our views on it. Happy to explore other entrepreneurs and make all of those guys also on the podcast, which we normally do over different mediums and different platforms and different things. so yeah, that's where we're coming in from. Chirag, and a little background is that I looked into entrepreneurship when I was in college. I was part of an activist. We were doing social development and entrepreneurship things. We represented India at the international level, and that's where I got a chance to meet Larry Page, and that was my first step when I asked him, "Hey, why do you want to be an?" I asked him this question: if you could change anything in your life, what would it be? And he answered, "I would start early." So I thought I took inspiration from him, came back, and we started our first company, which was in women's safety and kids safety wearable tech. Won the X Prize for that. Post which we started Leaf Studios, and all of us are here together. So happy to pass it on. Sitting on my left is Ayush right now.
Hi guys, Ayush this side. Little brief about me. So basically, I'm coming from a business background because my great grandparents, my father has been into the business since a very long time, and my father actually shifted his city in order to expand his business. So I've been growing up seeing him doing like all kind of things, hustle and everything they have been doing in order to establish the business and expand, grow and everything. So I was very interested always since beginning in the aspects and the nitty-gritty of how things happen, how do you think, how do you create business, or how do you create value out of thin air, or value by delivering the right thing to the right customer at the right time. So that has been intriguing me since the childhood. So I studied engineering, but that's when I was in college. That's when I met these guys, and that's when the what I say, the stars aligned, and we kicked off our entrepreneurial journey from there. So we have, since you won't get to know a lot about different businesses because we have built all of them together. So you'll keep hearing like repetitive things about the businesses that we have built. But to give a brief about what I'm doing, I'm running Leaf Studios, which is the consumer audio brand. I'm running this with Paras, who you'll hear very soon from, and it's the D2C brand. It's a top three D2C brand in India. We sell headphones, earphones, and consumer audio products to customers across India, and we have built this brand from scratch, and we are taking it further and growing and taking it to the stratosphere. And so yeah, that's about me. And next, I'll pass it on to Paras, who will introduce him.
Sure. Hi, viewers. I am Paras, and by my background, I am an IT Delhi graduate, batch of 2015. While I was in my college days, I started dancing, and then I became a professional jazz dancer, one of the top 50 in the country. I love dancing, and I feel everyone should like pursue some kind of performing arts once in their life. Sort of builds that instinct of getting an applause. You get to know what gets an applause, and that you can apply in so many things that you do in general life. So after my dancing days, I founded a company with my co-founders who you find on this podcast, and currently I'm the co-founder of Leaf Studios, which is one of India's biggest homegrown audio brands that focuses on binge viewers instead of music lovers. So we go after that specific TG. And apart from what I do, I still love to dance on some days. And I one of the strong beliefs that I live by every day is that pursuit of happiness is bullshit, and pursuit of creation is what will get you far. So might as well pursue creation, and building Leaf Studios is the result of that pursuit of creation, the brand that we have created, which is very distinct and everything. And the other philosophy that I very strongly live by, that is I keep unlocking new fun every time I look at an opportunity. So if it helps me unlock new fun, I want to do it. So as simple as that. Thank you so much. Happy to be on the pod. Hope the Synapse pod.
Hi guys, my name is Saransh. So it's great interacting with all of you for the first time. So yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting idea that we started off with, discussing different things that we've already been discussing for a long time amongst each other. And this kind of gets us to the new flavor of discussing it with all the people listening to us, hearing your feedback or comments, and kind of deciding what are the next interesting things that we would like to talk on. We've been knowing each other for a long time now. A little about myself. So I am currently the co-founder of Sati, building with Chirag, so whom you just kind of heard from. Building in stealth right now, but I primarily look at product, tech, etc. But that's just a piece of me, kind of looking into we all come from very diverse background. From when you listen to us, you'll not find someone who's just kind of building a company. You'll find someone you resonate with a lot. They are people similar to you, I think, right? And the idea here is to kind of talk about normal things. How we have what has our journey been like? What are the different things that we worked on? What was the thought process? How we kind of build those things? And yeah, I think I am more of a fun-loving person. I'm also a dancer. I've danced quite a bit in different fests, etc. and all. Had a great deal doing that. I am more into analytics and product and tech, so more that kind of a mindset. Very process oriented, I'll say. So I like going in depth of things, trying to solve it, and love problem solving. So that's a little about me when it comes to work. On the fun side, yeah, I kind of like exploring around, browsing stuff, learning new things. That's what gives me the kick, to interact with people, learn new things, how they're building, what they're building. But yeah, I think this gets me very excited, this opportunity, because that's what we'll be doing over here. So yeah, looking forward to these sessions. Over to you, Avinash.
Hi guys, my name is Avinash Bansal. I think my position is very strategically placed. When everyone has said everything, now I'm left with almost nothing. But To add a little bit about myself is that I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. I'm starting with very candid stuff that for me, building products and being hanging up to the things which I like was the big driver that I am here where I am right now. And yeah, the point is that when you like something, you keep on doing it and you never know what it can turn into. So always do that. Always make sure that what are you up to should be not thought out from a very long, far away idea, but thought from a very small paths, small steps, and that's how you can grow big, right? Instead of always eyeing for $1 billion stuff or something very fancy, just keep on doing small things at a time, but specifically which have your heart into. So I would have never done such thing, like a podcast. So thanks to you guys for bringing me here, and yeah, let's see how it goes.
Okay, thank you guys. Enough of the narcissism. Let us dive into the three topics we have planned for today.
Just one disclaimer before we begin: we are all hiring across all roles.
Yes.
Absolutely. Never
Paras.
been an opportunity for hiring.
So Paras has a lot of money. Please go to him if you want to get hired.
I have a lot of exciting work to do.
Cool. So on to the important topics. First, let's discuss about the biggest news that there is this guy called Elon Musk, and he is just Elon Musk, right? And he has just got his hands on the world's most influential social media with respect to sensible people, and that is Twitter. So Elon Musk buys Twitter for $54 a share, some approximately whatever.
54.20.
5420, and I mean, let's not dive into what 420 is. And so he gets Twitter for $54.20 a share, and net acquisition value is somewhere around $43 billion, 40 somewhat plus minus some billions here and there. So that is the big news today, and so I would like to hear what do people think about this acquisition, right? Like, what kind of changes do you expect? First of all, in Twitter, apart from the like we all know about the edit button, but so if anyone has a thought on that, what do you expect as the biggest change once Elon is in?
I'll jump in. Yeah. So I think I was listening to this guy's, post kind of pre-acquisition. He was just talking about on a TED talk that, what does he want? What does he plan to do? And heard some very interesting stuff. So what he said was there are a lot of algorithms running in the background with each type of content, right? Wherein basis some algorithms, it's getting decided what content to be boosted, what content do we want to tame down, right? He says that I want to outsource all those algorithms on GitHub, right? So that everyone in the development community can finally see what are those complex algorithms which are defining which content goes up, which content goes down, what are the parameters basis which it's getting defined. And secondly, if there is any manual step that is taken on any particular post, right, then it will come right below that particular post itself that, someone has done a manual intervention to keep it down, keep it up. So he really does plan on kind of keeping to his word of making it very open in those terms, wherein he's going to open what are the different algorithms that are being used to either silence someone or to boost someone's content, as well as whatever manual interventions are taken, which I think is a revolutionary idea. Like we all know, Elon has been a first principle thinker, right? He's always thought about problems very differently. Like for every company you look at, any social media you look at, they will always try to prevent this as a trademark or as a, of the company, the algorithms, right? But yeah, the IP of the company. But just going along and just publishing all of that, what actions they are taking on each content, that's kind of a huge leap ahead. So he's kind of giving away his own the major, whatever he has, the platform has to offer. That's one of the major things that have the algorithm, right? So wanting to give that away to achieve, what his larger goal has always been. So that I think is crazy.
Actually, that's true. Actually, I want to add something from product side also. I think his strong belief in the cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, I think this is a master blow to the fact that the metaverse future or the transaction of Bitcoin or acceptance of the cryptocurrencies in the mainstream, I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first, who are trying to build their own cryptocurrency. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so many people who are crypto first, who are blockchain first. I think this can be a huge channel for that, with so at one place, I think this is a cheap sell.
So you think it's a cheap sell?
I think we all thought that WhatsApp $19 billion was a huge deal.
Yeah.
But today, do we think that that was overpriced? I don't think so. I think Twitter at this price also is pretty cheap.
Just to get everyone's attention on that topic, that it is a cheap sell, about some months ago, Twitter was trading at $69 per share, right? And now Elon has put a bid, in fact, he's won the bid of $54.20, right? And so he gave a very open dhamki or a threat that if this takeover doesn't happen, hostile takeover doesn't happen, then he will dump all his 9%, 9.2%, whatever shares, and that would drop in value. So in public markets, it would definitely dip a lot, and then people would not just have lost his buyout amount, but they would have also lost, the shareholders would also have lost a lot of share value. So I don't think so that if there is I don't think so if Parag, that is the existing CEO, or the board has any person who is capable enough to take it back to that $69 value. They should even that thought should have even occurred that they alone could pump it up so much as to match the offer, or probably overpower the offer, because his offer was 30% to 35% upwards of the existing share price. So not very sure if it's a cheap sell.
I mean that price comparison is not right when it comes to Instagram, because the thing is that the Twitter as a product is broken, which was not the case with Instagram. I mean, you had revenue, you had ad revenue, you had consumers there, and the problem is that with Twitter, a lot of a major issue that people have been talking about, that Twitter as a product is broken in the sense that the revenue is not there. The reason why the shares have been trading low is one of that reason, that as a company they have invested a lot in R&D and acquisition, like company acquisition and everything, but they were not able to solve the revenue part of that equation, and that bot scam and everything has already plagued the Twitter. Like Elon Musk only tweeted that these are the list of top people with most following on Twitter, but they haven't tweeted in the past 6 months or so.
Yeah, that is very true, but I'm not very sure if the revenue has not grown. If you look at the annual charts of last 5 years, and I think Saransh can back me up, I think we were looking at it together, the revenues have definitely scaled up. So the only issue is that I don't think so the board was strong enough to take it, let's say 2x 3x in the next couple of years, which or they could have offer shopped as well, right? Like,
I mean, that's definitely a challenge that's going to come, like how to improve that. I mean, if you're seeing the growth of Twitter as the revenue, then you have to compare it with something in order to see if it has grown or not.
so you're not looking at absolute revenue, you're looking at comparison delta to other social medias.
I think that's just to add to my point, right? Like what I'm thinking of is that when you're looking at public markets, right, you're also looking to cater to the shareholders in the public market, and you're doing a lot of things for the sentiments of it. If they're sitting out of California, and the most people who are holding stock of Twitter are sitting out of California, they're going after the leftist people, and their voice is being put on a loudspeaker, and those are the algorithms that are being written. But if you compare it with something like taking it public, right? Like I think what shareholders, like taking it back private, what shareholders, like what the board saw and CEO saw, and even the Jack Dorsey kind of tweeted, right, like the founder of Twitter, that he saw an opportunity of actually making Twitter what they initially thought of, like a freedom of speech, and that's where everyone is excited about. And that also scares me, that at a whimsical of a billionaire, we're deciding what freedom of speech should look like. I mean, there are some opinions that shouldn't be heard, right? Like Ted Bundy's opinion is not something which I would want to hear or on open. So, not each, like, I remember Aristotle's quote here, like I read, not everyone's opinion is the same. And he was the guy who started democracy. So, coming from his point, was like, do we want people who are not of this, who don't understand the same amount of things to vote on the same amount of topics, or should it be put it in a different kind of an equation. So yeah, so I'm still not sure what the best answer to that whole thing is, but I think the board wants it.
Manik, are you saying that freedom of speech is undesirable in this case?
Before we deep dive, it's a very deep topic. I have my 2 cents on two things. A, valuation should be seen not just in terms of revenues, growth, and revenue, everything. It should be on the fact that it's the biggest influential platform and influences people who have got deep pockets, who have got the purchasing power. So the monetization potential is much higher than where they are right now. So I would agree to Avinash's point that it is achieved by indeed. And other than that, Elon taking it's practically a joke, right? So like every time someone is scared, oh my followers are on someone else's platform, what if they block it? He's the biggest
Well, it's a
influencer.
$43 billion joke.
For all of us, it's a platform. For him, it's direct to consumer. He's gone direct to consumer. He owns the fucking platform. But on a serious note, I see that all of his is built companies that compound on each other in the past, and somehow if you see all of his companies deal with politicians, deal with national figures, and where are all the national figures and politicians they have on Twitter, right? So it's a way of probably softly arm twisting everyone into agreeing into what Tesla or a Solar City or a SpaceX proposes. So it's a good grab on the government according to
They kind of abide. Twitter abides to the laws of different countries, right? But I think what is missing is that we don't know. Obviously, they're abiding to different laws by the countries. They have to. They don't have a choice with that. But what we are not aware is what happens in the background, right? Like which of those things get bumped or lost, which is not by the law, but by their own on own discretion per se, right? So those are the things that we are not aware of how those function. So getting that out first of all is, I think, a big step in terms of being transparent. Rest, obviously, like he's a super brand in himself, right? At the end of the day, personally, I agree with Manik's point that somewhat freedom in the hand of everyone. Obviously, it's a democracy. You want to give it in the hand of everyone so that everyone's voice is heard, but not all voice is equal per se when it comes to different matters. You would rather want to hear the opinion of a subject matter expert rather than every Tom, Dick, and Harry raising their opinion on it. So I'm sure that there will be ways to kind of solve for that, but that doesn't come at the cost of totally oppressing someone from even stating how he feels like, right?
Yeah, I have an interesting take. Just imagine Twitter becoming a blockchain company. So when you talk about that abiding by each country rules, and then otherwise it's either gonna be running on VPN in every country because it's gonna get blocked by the country, or it's gonna get on blockchain and then it's gonna be controlled by no one or by everyone, as you can say. So what can happen, we'll see about it.
I mean, just adding on to what Saran said, right? Like freedom of speech, or just coming back to that topic which we had begun. It's how, just take a moment and think about this. When you're understanding how each voice says or what each voice is trying to put out there, are you looking to, I mean, what are you gaining out of it? Like most of the people who tweet have an ulterior motive. Either they want to be higher on the social status chain, or they want to signal something. So what is everyone signaling? And is it just going to be a mirror of everyone talking to each other and no one's listening? Is that what Twitter will essentially turn out to be? That's my other concern, right? Like, or everyone becoming a YouTube influencer, so essentially no one's a YouTube influencer.
I didn't understand that point. What do you mean by like that? Those economies are already under play, right? Like it's an open platform where anyone can come and tweet unless someone tries to do something dodgy, like Donald Trump and
Dodgy.
yeah, and yeah, not Dogecoin, but someone like Donald Trump who tries to do something shitty and then gets removed. So what do you mean when you say that everyone becoming an influencer? Essentially, that's saying like everyone having an opinion on something is not cool.
All I'm saying is, like local, like I think Paras was the one who mentioned how in his TED talk he explained the local laws should be believed. Okay, so local laws of Afghanistan says, which is being ruled by Taliban at this point of time, it is fine, but women can't be on Twitter, they can't say their opinion. Is that the law that we want to hear from everyone in the world? Or the fact that, hey, everyone should be wearing a hijab if they're women, if they're showing their face, it's wrong. So that's the local law that's being spreading over and over again. Is it the voice of hatred that comes across, or is it the voice of reason? Imagine like Bolsonaro saying, "Hey, let's cut the Amazon rainforest, right? Like it's great for Brazil to actually cut it and use the resources of Amazon, but the whole world will suffer because of the climate change." So then there are different experiences because local law by different prime ministers or president of different countries will mean different things. And I mean, Putin is great to say no, Ukraine should be captured. And Zelensky will keep saying, hey, why are we being captured? So how do you kind of go into those things? That's what I mean.
But no, I get it. I get it. I get what you're saying. It's just that I'm a very big personal proponent of freedom of speech. So I believe like so the essentially the whole idea about that is consensus will rule, right? Maybe right or wrong. So if let's say there are three people, right, and two believe that something is right, even if it's wrong, then it is right for those three people.
But three people sitting in USA should not decide for one sitting in India.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what we are talking about is, and let's say 10 years down the line, Twitter is the global social network for every voice in every ethnicity and every geography, right? And Taliban is also on top of that. So what I'm saying is, it should essentially be a jungle law where every single person has an opinion on any A, B, C, D till Z, any kind of a topic, and the jungle rule decides or the consensus decides what is right and what is wrong.
The open source code is functionally that only.
Absolutely, and that is what I believe is absolutely fair. And I do not resonate with local government bodies deciding what is right or what is wrong for the general consensus, because then it is definitely coming from biases of those elected officials who change with time. So if we are looking at a very 100% decentralized world in the next 10, 15, 20 years, and decentralization works on consensus, right? Where every voice may not be equal, but it will have a power, and essentially the majority will decide what is right or what is wrong.
Okay, you are saying consensus is right. Let me just, I am a great proponent of freedom of speech, right? Like, I don't want to be misjudged there. But imagine if flat earthers, if you have seen their YouTube page, if there are more than 4 billion people who are flat earther believers, and they say, hey, this earth is flat, this is my opinion, everyone believes it, everyone agrees on it. Yeah. Okay, consensus there.
But then essentially you're talking about facts, right? If one guy out of that 7 billion could also go to space, click a picture and come back and show it, and the consensus doesn't mean, then the whole fucking population is shit. But what I'm saying is, a fact cannot be differentiated. Opinions are subjective, right? Let's take Taliban for example, right? And they're putting out all their shit laws like women should not study, women should not go out, and Saudi is one of the biggest proponent on that. What I'm saying is, if the whole global consensus says no to it, then it is a wrong law, and that's what we all agree on, and that's what global consciousness is, right? Even if the whole global consciousness, and that is a subjective thing.
That's a group thing. That's that thing. And I think differentiating, like almost every fact can be argued it's 99% true. Because it's probability basis, right?
Yeah,
So all I'm saying is just differentiate between facts and subjectivity, where people make choices to their lives or the lives of the other people who are in their city, and let consensus rule. And I'm not talking about consensus ruling facts, because a fact is a fact.
Like a couple of points there. Like first, you don't go up asking for everyone to vote on something to get what was the consensus, right? It's just most of the things out there are subjective, right? And what you're propagating like a decentralized world, obviously, like 10 years down the lane, we don't know how it pans out. But in my opinion, right now people are naive right now. Like not everyone is at the same level. I'm not talking about in their thought process about different terms, right? I'm talking about in general understanding of things. Imagine a scenario wherein there are riots happening in India, right? And we allow someone to tweet that, gather around over here. Like those tweets, by the time the government even realizes someone has tweeted, and by law they have to take it down, there have to be algorithms or something in place to kind of take it down, right? So there are far-fetched consequences of free speech as well, which are not taken into account because we assume that everyone is a rational thinker, which is not the case, right? And secondly, at the end, we are not holding, there's no such thing as consensus. We can't change someone's opinion. I don't think we can. It takes time to kind of change opinions, right? And it's I don't need to be what it spreads is hatred. It doesn't lead to a consensus where everyone is coming and kind of voting for it. What happens is that I feel that, hey, this thing is happening. It kind of propagates a lot of hatred towards me. So I do believe, yes, there is some sort of check mechanisms that are required, which need to be put in place, and you waiting for the law to come up and tell you that, hey, it's time to remove this, probably might be too late for all those things, because internet is fast, right? I tweet something today, it's out there. By the time anyone kind of takes action on it, the consequences might have even taken place.
And by making it open source is what Elon wants to do, is to bring in all the developers to train it better, which is not happening right now. Even I mean, what Zuckerberg has said in one of his interview is that on social media, whatever you do, even whatever action you do, either you upset right or either you upset left, right? So I mean, even listening to all the comments that we have or the difference of opinions we have, I think what Elon has done, he has taken a burning arrow up his butt. Like it's exciting for the viewers, but it's painful for him, right? So that's what I think.
That's what his plan is, right? He'll take the company private. This will not be a public company anymore. He'll take the company private. He'll probably has the conspiracy is also there that he'll collude with Jack Dorsey and get him back to run it individually, however the fuck he wants to run.
That's actually an interesting controversy. I was thinking about it, like, how is it that Dorsey just stepped down like 3 months, 4 months back, made a kind of a puppet CEO just for all this thing to play out, and then I have a feeling that he's going to come back.
Parag is gonna be offended by you. You just called him a puppet CEO.
That's what happened.
Well, I had a very alternate view on the product, what Twitter can be. I mean, in order to do all those things, like what we are doing right now is, how do set of people define the laws which goes equal, which gets accepted equally across the globe, right? So I was reading somewhere about this, like Twitter should actually stop being a social platform and they should actually become an API layer. And people can actually build their own Twitter of their own world. Like
API layer of opinions.
API layer of all this data. It's a API layer of news, like flow of news from one place to another. And instead of monetizing through ads, they should monetize through API hits and all. So this way, you don't have to control what flows across the globe, but every other legislature or every other legal setup can build their own app or their own form of Twitter.
But that is fucking crazy, because I just got a random thought, right? What if, so what you just said, right? Like a human's opinion taken as source of truth. So what if Twitter is the largest oracle?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that would fucking change the world, right? My opinion is that global warming is never gonna happen, and in my small fucking bubble of my city, everyone believes global warming is fake, and that is what Oracle takes it as source of truth, and they never implement anything for myself. That is a negative aspect to it, but I can also think a lot of positive aspects for it, right? Like individualistic source of truth for every single society, and that probably the API layer might enable that.
That just looks like a dystopian world to me.
George Orwell is back in the form of Elon Musk. Anyway, guys, we have talked 50 minutes just on Twitter. Let us move on from Twitter to another topics. So, does anyone have any suggestions on the next topic? Because I have two suggestions. The ONDC, which is a big one, and we can talk about the Elon Musk of India, which is Nandan Nilankani, or we could go to talking about revenues and what do you think is happening in the market right now. We are all hearing about this funding crunch which is coming in, especially for startups. So how would that play out? Who would be affected the most, and what should essentially companies who are at a scale who already probably have a war chest do, or companies which are still fundraising do. So I think we'll put ONDC for the next pod, and let's just talk about this. So I would love to hear Saransh's opinion on companies with a lot of war chest and the kind of strategies that they are applying right now, and what should they do essentially right now in this funding crunch which we all are hearing, or is it even real?
Yeah, so in my personal opinion, I think kind of funding crunch has started happening more at the upper levels. I think post Series D, Series C kind of levels, anything above 60 plus, 50 plus is where the funding crunch has started happening. Seed, Series A are still taking place. Those kind of rounds are still taking place. I think what companies have already started doing is they have started to optimize. There has been a sudden realization that, hey, we got to focus on revenues now. And that's why we have seen even the, Indian unicorns like Meesho, etc., kind of shutting down the businesses or teams that are probably not performing or were high cash burns. Like they shut down their grocery business. They knew it was low margins. They had to spend in a lot of more money. Have started seeing those kind of conversations between founders now where the pushing away the cash burn businesses. They are moving more towards the cash cows, trying to kind of focus on them. How can they grow them more faster? So those kind of conversations definitely start happening. What it looks like is next 6-7 months, the market at a macroeconomic level is going through a turmoil with obviously very high inflation. And given that Fed is going to rate kind of increase the rates, right? We're going to see a liquidity crunch in the market. With that going ahead, it's going to be very difficult to raise funds. Now, when that kind of situation plays out, founders obviously find it wise to preserve some cash, build a longer roadmap because you don't really know when the next funding is going to come. So I think that has already started playing out. We won't see a lot of experimentation taking place. We might also start seeing some consolidations, some acquisitions, where VCs might start thinking on, kind of consolidating two players into a single, where the fight has been going on for long, where the cash burns have been going on for long. That's my take on it.
Wow, that's a solid one.
What do you think, Paras? What do you think? Should early stage companies who are probably raising their seed or Series A or should essentially do where should they get scared that, hey, the funding crunch is coming, we should focus hardcore on profits and revenues right now, or they should think about no issues, we'll go and or the low scale or the small scale funding is still not drying up, and we'll just go out and look for it and just focus on growth first businesses. What is your thought?
No, I generally think that early stage mindset need not change as such. Early stage investments in general are investments in the dream. And I think dreams are not bound by hype cycles of the market. A dream can always be invested in. Probably $1 or $2 or $3 million up and down in the valuation hardly matters to both sides, investors or the founder, because it's that early stage. And I also think that an early stage founder need not obsess about a metric whose time has not come. For example, like you not in every business you have to focus on revenue from day zero, right? And I think even if the funding crunch comes for companies which are like Series B and beyond, that should not affect the mindset of an early stage. They are building 0 to 1; they should practically stay the same. In general, I feel that late stage investors' value addition in a company's journey will just keep decreasing with time, because more and more people are coming into the investment space and they want to invest into private companies. Web3 is a big gateway to allow retail investors to come in. So where does an investor add the most value? I think that's early stage. And as soon as the company proves a hint of PMF, I think eventually the retail investors will just take over from there. This is my view for like 3 to 5 years from now on. And I think only early stage investors will be relevant, and late stage will all be done by public. Probably public will also be divided into multiple things, like some invest pre-profit, some invest post-profit. But I just genuinely feel late stage investors will start to lose relevance more and more with time. It is the early stage investors which will stay relevant, and early stage founders are just the champions. They don't need to change.
I think Paras is right here. If you notice, the trend is already happening where the late stage guys are doing early stage funds.
Yeah.
They've all actually started doing like something like a Y Combinator sort where they're calling in applications. I even saw A16Z announcing it, and there was
Tiger Global being a part of a 2 million round. What does that tell you? Tiger Global being a part of a 2 million round. What does that tell you?
Tiger Global doing 250K checks, unheard of, or even Owl Ventures doing 250K checks, unheard of things before. So yeah, maybe you're right.
I basically think that now the maturity level in the market has gone way up. So I always take an example of Google in my mind, that Google for 6 years they were only focusing on technology and doesn't care about revenue. But that doesn't happen right now. Right now, what happens is that you see competitors cropping up left, right, center. You don't enjoy the freedom to work in your own silos and work on the real hardcore stuff before you think of what money. So even in the investment journey, you are actually made to think, and you should think, that what would be the revenue models of the future. Execution can be on your own behest, but what are the experimentation which has showing the signals of revenue generation, that becomes important. And I also am a strong believer of the same fact. And yeah, I agree with all of you that money is definitely not going to be problem at the early stages, because again, they see a high multiple of returns there. But of course, the multiple of returns for the late stage investors is going down. There is definitely something that can be seen, that when, especially with the IPOs, the recent IPOs has shown not been that successful. So what used to be the exit strategy for late stage investors, that is not proving to be valuable as such, right? So that's again a signal for them to start coming early. So yeah, and that's my take on that.
Coming early or kind of putting in the last checks once the company has started showing some signs of profitability, so that at least once it goes or towards revenue, so once it goes IPO, you can make a delta out of it.
I mean, even in the cash flow positive companies, if you don't have profits, you shouldn't be going IPO in India. You should be looking at Nasdaq or other exchanges.
We also got to look at those, right? Like one, especially for the cash flow companies, which rely. Obviously, you get some fund from raising in public, but you also rely on debt, right? With these macroeconomics that are playing out right now, at least for a year or so, the interest rates are going to be extremely higher. So any debt-heavy company, any company which has already taken a lot of debt from the market or plans on taking more debt from the market, it's going to take a hit for sure. Those shares prices are going to take a hit. So those are also probably things which investors are thinking right now and deciding kind of how do we want to kind of take next steps.
Yeah, I think something like that is happening in Web3, where these decentralized funds are coming up, which essentially allow people to invest in their token or coin.
Venture capital DAOs.
Yes, venture capital DAOs, and these VC DAOs will of course take consensus from their investors, which is essentially the wallet addresses or people with governance tokens of their own DAO, on whether they should invest in that company or not. So I think that something like that has started. It's just happening on a very small scale now, with not more than 50 to 100K kinds of checks individually in a company. But people can definitely go and check it out, and I think that's something very interesting. Probably that is the biggest VC disruptor, where all the small micro retail investors public funds would get collated, and then consensus would take place on a particular type of companies or a sector, and then we might also see specialities being formed, right?
Yeah.
Like this DAO is specifically for let's say just investing in biotech, or this DAO is specifically for investing in clean energy. And I think believers of clean energy would participate in such DAOs.
Absolutely.
Where they could see the maximum upside from the clean energy companies which the DAO has invested in, and reap the benefits, which essentially every VC has done in the history of venture capital.
The idea of this pack was before it became a marketing tool to like siphon in so much money. So the fundamental idea was that you give us money, we make sure that the company that we are investing or acquiring will do all the background checks of revenue, profits, their partners, partnerships, and all. So like quality profit and everything, quality revenue and everything, and then we'll acquire it. So, I mean, what essentially the DAO is going to do, I mean, we cannot rely on thousands and hundreds of people to validate functioning of a company, right? So that is what SPACs were supposed to do. So if we can make it like transparent, this whole process transparent by making it as a DAO or bringing it on blockchain, then that new age SPAC or SPAC 2.0 can be something that can actually solve this democratization of investing by the public.
Now, I don't want to answer to 200 people the same thing. I would rather answer to one person who has done it over and over again. So I would rather have essentially, even with private sectorized VCs, like and that's a very subjective opinion, and I'm happy to discuss this, is the fact that someone like a Sequoia or someone like a general VC has seen different successes and failures. And I think you learn a lot of things from different successes and failures. If you're generally sector specific and you have only seen one kind of success happening, then you can't think from first principle because you're kind of blinded by different viewpoints. So, as an entrepreneur, I mean, you guys are all entrepreneurs here. Would you all want like a VC DAO or essentially a traditional VC to come in?
It depends on the value that they're. So it's about the value, right? Apart from the money. Let's say if I was only looking at a VC for the money aspect, then it's same. Leaf DAO or not VC DAO versus normal DAO, right? A normal VC. But what I think personally is it helps in hiring. It helps in finding new.
What helps in hiring? Which one? The VCs or the
VCs? Yeah.
Oh, I would go for a founders DAO, a DAO in which all the founders have invested money and then they put money in my next company.
And I get their time.
Yeah, I get their time, I get their experience. Like, bro, they have done
It's
shit
already
at
happening.
least
It's
with their
already
own
happening, by the
hand.
way.
And not to be offensive to anyone, it's just that founders are the best fucking breed who have done shit with their own hand. And I strongly believe with that. And I would definitely prefer VCs who have founders in their own, or either on their board or in their charter or somehow in their fund, because that is essentially real value for people who have done stuff from the scratch and built companies on scale. Cool, fantastic, guys. I think we have stretched beyond our mark. Thanks a lot for everyone for coming and all our viewers. We would bid adieu to you all this time, and we will be back with some amazing and more interesting topics in the Synapse pod next week. So stay tuned and please like, share, and subscribe.